Every morning, you stand before two very clear choices. You can continue sleeping with your dreams, or you can wake up early and begin living with awareness. Pause for a moment and feel this. In the very first moments of the day, you quietly make a decision that shapes your entire state of being for the hours that follow. When the alarm rings, you can press snooze, turn over, and let the mind drift toward familiar comfort. Or you can open your eyes, leave the bed, and return to the present moment. In the teachings of the Buddha, the difference is not about strength of will, but about the level of awareness. 5 extra minutes may seem harmless, but over time, they turn into rushing, tension, and a sense of being lost. Early morning carries a very special energy, when the world is still quiet and the mind has not yet been pulled away. Waking up early is not about moving faster, but about not losing yourself from the very beginning of the day. Early morning carries a very different kind of power, not loud but deeply settling. When the world is still asleep, the human mind naturally returns to its most natural state. There are no urgent calls from work, no roles to put on, and no responsibilities pulling the mind in many directions. In this time, the mind is like a lake that has just settled after a long night, untouched by wind, undisturbed by waves. That is why early morning becomes a special moment to look back at yourself. Many people believe that waking up early is about getting more done, about getting ahead of others. But in the teachings of the Buddha, the true value of the morning is not in controlling time, but in not allowing time to control the mind. When you wake up early, you are not immediately pulled into notifications, messages, or stories that have not yet happened. The mind has not yet been divided by desire, worry, or reaction. This is when restless thoughts are fewer, the breath is clearer, and presence remains intact. Early morning allows you to begin the day from within, rather than being pushed forward by the outside world. You can sit quietly for a few minutes, feel the breath, listen to the body, and recognize your true inner state. There are mornings when the mind feels light, and there are mornings when it still feels heavy. Yet that very recognition is already awareness. Like looking down at the surface of a lake, you can clearly see whether the water is clear or clouded. Early morning does not force you to become better. It simply offers you the chance to see clearly where you are. When the mind is illuminated from the very beginning of the day, you enter life with greater steadiness. Waking up early does not give you more time. Waking up early gives you more presence, and from that presence, every action throughout the day becomes slower, more conscious, and more gentle. From this presence, you learn to move through the day without rushing, without automatic reactions, but with the ability to pause, breathe deeply, observe, and choose your responses with understanding. To keep the flow of the awakened morning that has just begun, what matters next is not how early you wake up, but how you use that time. In the spirit of Buddhist teachings, morning is not meant to force yourself to become more efficient, but to gently return to body and mind before entering the current of the day. The simplest way is to move through 3 steps of morning awareness, gentle yet complete. The first step is waking up the body. As you leave the bed, there is no need to rush into exercise or set any goals. Simply stretch slowly and feel the joints moving after a long night. Breathe in deeply and breathe out slowly, letting the breath guide you back to the feeling of being alive in this body. You may walk a few very slow steps in the room, feeling your feet touch the ground and noticing each small movement. The purpose is not to become stronger, but to know that this body is present, breathing, and supporting you in the new day. When the body is awakened with gentle attention, the mind naturally begins to settle. The second step is nourishing the mind. This is the moment you carefully choose what will enter your mind at the very start of the day. Instead of opening the news or scrolling through social media, you may read a few lines of mindful words, gentle reminders of awareness and compassion. After that, sit quietly for 5 minutes. There is no need to meditate correctly or incorrectly. Simply sit and notice the breath as it flows in and out. If the mind wanders, just acknowledge it and return to the breath. You may also write down one thing you feel grateful for, even something very small, such as the morning light, a peaceful sleep, or the chance to begin again. These simple acts nourish the mind with a sense of sufficiency rather than comparison or lack. The third step is setting a mindful intention for the day. This is not a to-do list, nor a set of goals to achieve. It is a gentle question you ask yourself. Today, with what state of mind do I wish to live? It may be patience, listening, kindness, or calmness. When you set an intention in this way, your day gains a clear inner direction. You do not try to control everything that happens, but you know which inner state you want to return to when facing each situation. These three steps keep the structure of an effective morning in modern life, but the purpose has been transformed. It is not about increasing productivity, not about doing more than others, but about not losing yourself in the busy hours ahead. When the body is awakened, the mind is nourished, and the intention is set, you enter the new day with inner steadiness. Whether the day is full or light, easy or difficult, you still have a place to return to. A morning like this does not create pressure to succeed. It opens space for you to live more fully, more slowly, and more consciously in each moment. Waking up early is not only an action of the body, but first of all, a choice of the mind. There is a profound difference between reluctantly leaving the bed and waking up with awareness. In modern life, discipline is often understood as force, as making yourself do something you do not enjoy in order to reach a certain goal. But in Buddhism, discipline carries a very different meaning. Discipline is not self-punishment, but a deep form of kindness toward yourself. It is the ability to choose awareness over habit, clarity over drifting along old patterns. Many people believe they need enough motivation before they can change a habit. Yet motivation is fragile and unpredictable. There are days when you feel full of energy, and days when you feel exhausted and discouraged. If you act only when motivation is present, you will always be controlled by circumstances and emotions. In the Buddhist spirit, discipline does not oppose emotions. It helps you not be ruled by them. When the alarm rings in the early morning, the pleasant feeling of sleep immediately appears. The body wants to stay, the mind wants to delay. If you notice this and still gently stand up, you are practicing a very concrete form of awareness. Each time you leave the bed with mindfulness, you are quietly teaching your mind that feelings are not the leader. Sleepiness may be present, laziness may arise, but you do not have to follow them. In Buddhism, this is not resistance, but observation. You clearly see pleasant sensations arising, and you also see that they will pass. It is precisely in the moment of not chasing after these sensations that freedom begins to grow. Discipline in this way does not feel tense or rigid. It is like a gentle reminder that you are caring for your own future. You do not wake up early to prove anything to others, nor to blame yourself when you feel tired. You wake up because you know your mind needs this clarity. This is a quiet kindness, not loud or showy, yet steady and enduring. In the teachings of the Buddha, not chasing pleasant sensations is a very important practice on the path to liberation. When we constantly seek comfort and avoid discomfort, we gradually lose the ability to choose. Waking up early is a very ordinary example of this practice. You do not deny the comfort of sleep, but you do not allow it to decide all your actions. It is like when you sit in meditation and notice a thought arising, but you do not need to follow it. The mindset of one who wakes up early in the Buddhist spirit is therefore not about conquering or winning. It is a mind that knows how to pause, how to observe, and how to choose what leads to long-term peace. You do not need to be perfect, nor stronger than anyone else. You only need to choose a little more awareness each morning. From these very small choices, discipline forms naturally, and with it comes inner steadiness. Gradually, you realize that discipline does not take away your freedom. On the contrary, it helps you no longer be driven by familiar reactions. And this is a step very close to the freedom the Buddha pointed toward. There is a very rare time in the day when the world has not yet called your name. No one needs your reply. No role demands your presence. No responsibility pulls you away. The time is early morning. In that quietness, what is most precious is not how much you get done, but how long you are able to stay with yourself. Many people fear silence because they confuse it with loneliness. But in the Buddhist spirit, silence is not absence. It is a return. A return to the body that is breathing. A return to the mind that has not yet been named by any story. When the world is still asleep, morning silence carries a very special quality. It is not heavy, not empty, but clear and spacious. This is the time when the mind has not yet been pulled by notifications, messages, work, or the expectations of others. In this moment, you are not an employee, not a parent, not someone who has to prove anything. You are simply a human being who is alive. In Buddhism, this state is called calm awareness. It is not about trying to empty the mind, but allowing the mind to rest in natural presence. Morning silence does not ask you to do anything complicated. You do not need to understand deep teachings or reach any special state. You only need to sit quietly for about 10 minutes. There is no need for a perfect posture. Just sit in a way that feels safe and comfortable for your body. During those 10 minutes, you listen to your breath. The breath flows in and out naturally, without control, without force. You notice the air entering and leaving, and you feel the body living in each breath. When you sit like this, the mind will begin to speak. Thoughts about work may arise. Plans may appear. Unfinished tasks may come to mind. What matters is not pushing them away, but recognizing that they are present. In the early morning, these thoughts are often lighter and less crowded. You can see your mind clearly before it is pulled into familiar roles and habitual reactions. This is the moment when you observe the mind before it is called by anyone, before it is asked to become any version of itself. This observation brings a deep understanding. You realize that the mind is not always noisy. It becomes restless only when it is constantly pulled. When there is space, the mind naturally settles. Like water, when there is no wind, it becomes calm on its own. Early morning gives you the condition to see this directly, not through theory. Many people think that taking time for yourself is selfish. But in Buddhism, returning to yourself is the foundation of compassion. When you have no time for yourself, you enter the day in a depleted state. And when depleted, you react easily. You are easily hurt, and you may hurt others without intending to. Morning silence helps refill the inner space before you give to the world. If you do not give time to yourself in the morning, the whole day will take you away. You will be pulled into demands, expectations, notifications, and endless reactions. But when you begin the day in silence, you carry an inner anchor with you. No matter how busy the day becomes, you remember that you once sat still, once breathed deeply, once were fully present. That memory helps you return more easily in the middle of life. The power of morning silence does not lie in separating you from life, but in helping you enter life with clarity. You do not need to escape the world. You only need to meet the world from a place of inner steadiness. And from that steadiness, you begin to live more gently, more wisely, and with less loss of yourself in each moment of the day. On the journey of waking up early and living with awareness, people often speak about those who are called successful. But in the Buddhist spirit, what is worth learning is not outer achievement, but inner steadiness. Those considered successful do not begin their days with noise or haste. They begin with silence. Before the world calls their name, they have already returned to themselves. In the original script, examples of successful people appear to create motivation. When viewed through a Buddhist lens, these examples are seen differently. Not for admiration or comparison, but to recognize a very simple common point. Before doing anything significant, they all make space for quiet in the morning. That quiet is not meant to prepare for competition, but to settle the mind. Some wake up very early to walk in silence. Some sit quietly for a few minutes before reading or writing. Some simply make a cup of tea and breathe slowly. From the outside, these morning rituals may seem very simple, yet it is precisely this simplicity that creates a steady foundation for the entire day. They are not seeking special feelings. They are simply creating space so the mind is not pulled too quickly. What matters here is not how closely you copy them. Buddhism does not encourage imitating the lives of others. Each person has different circumstances, rhythms, and capacities. What is being pointed to is only the spirit of beginning the day in silence. When you understand this, you stop searching for the perfect morning formula. You do not need to become someone admirable in order to live with awareness. You only need one small habit that helps you return. It may be a few minutes of sitting quietly before speaking to anyone. It may be one deep breath before picking up your phone. It may also be stepping outside and feeling the morning sky. One such moment of awareness is worth far more than many rushed actions. In busy life, we easily believe that steadiness comes from doing more. But those who live with awareness show something different. Steadiness is nourished by regular moments of returning. When each morning has a place to rest, the whole day has direction. When the mind is placed in the right place, action naturally becomes clearer and gentler. This also reminds us that morning rituals do not need to be long or elaborate. They only need to be enough for you to remember who you are before the world defines you. With that remembrance, you enter the day with quiet strength. You are not swept up by the urgency of others, nor do you need to prove anything. You simply live according to your inner rhythm. Morning, therefore, is not the beginning of ambition, but the beginning of clarity. When you have a moment of returning each day, you no longer depend on circumstances to maintain balance. Even when the day is full of changes, you still know how to pause and breathe. One mindful habit and one moment of return may seem very small, but they are enough to keep the mind from drifting away. From that steadiness, everything else naturally falls into place. This is the quiet foundation that allows life to become more stable and harmonious, without the need to seek outer competition or prove yourself. Waking up early may sound simple, but when you actually begin, most people encounter the same familiar chain of difficulties. Sleepiness appears the moment the alarm rings. The body feels heavy, the eyes do not want to open, and the bed feels warmer than ever. Right after that comes delay. Just a few more minutes, the mind whispers. And if there is no awareness, those few minutes easily turn into giving up. The day then begins in haste, or does not truly begin at all. In the original script, these difficulties are seen as a battle between commitment and comfort. When viewed through a Buddhist lens, the approach becomes gentler. The issue is not that you are weak or lacking willpower. What is happening is simply that the mind is seeking familiar comfort. When you understand this, you do not need to blame yourself. You only need to recognize it. The mind is seeking comfort. Just this recognition already creates a very important pause. In the teachings of the Buddha, observation always comes before change. If you fight against sleepiness, you create more tension. If you blame yourself for lacking discipline, you create more suffering. But if you simply look directly at what is happening, the body is tired, the mind wants comfort, then you have stepped out of automatic reaction. Sleepiness is no longer an enemy. It is simply a state that is present. When you observe instead of resist, you begin to clearly see your familiar chain of reactions. The alarm rings, the pleasant feeling of sleep appears, the mind wants to delay, and then reasons are created. If you follow this chain, you return to old momentum. If you pause for a moment and look, you have a chance to choose differently. There is no need to choose something big. Just choose to leave the bed a little more slowly. One very Buddhist suggestion is not to change abruptly. You do not need to promise yourself that from tomorrow you will wake up very early and maintain it forever. Big promises often create pressure and easily lead to disappointment. Instead, you can wake up 10 or 15 minutes earlier than your current habit. This small change is enough so the mind does not panic. You are not forcing the body to adapt too quickly. You are gently expanding the familiar zone. When you wake up a little earlier, keep a slow rhythm. Do not jump up as if racing. Sit up, feel the body waking, place your feet on the ground, and take a few deep breaths. If the mind is still sleepy, you only need to know that. You do not need to eliminate it. In Buddhism, recognition itself is already an act of awareness. The feeling of sleepiness may still be there, but it no longer completely controls you. There will also be mornings when you fail. You turn off the alarm and sleep again. When that happens, observe your next reaction. Do you blame yourself? Do you give up on the whole day? This too is part of the practice. Instead of judging yourself, simply note it. Today, the mind was stronger than awareness. Tomorrow we try again. There is no failure on the path of awareness, only moments that have not yet been seen. Gradually, you will see that the greatest difficulty is not sleepiness, but habitual reaction. When that habit is seen many times, it gradually loses its power. You do not need to defeat it. You only need to stop being blindly led by it. This is the deeper meaning of observing without resisting. When you approach waking up early with understanding and patience, the process becomes lighter. You no longer see the morning as a battle that must be won. You see it as an opportunity to understand your mind more clearly. Each time you recognize the mind seeking comfort and still choose to stand up, you are cultivating a very important quality. That is the ability to stay with the truth of the present moment. From that ability, perseverance is naturally nourished. And it is precisely this non-strained perseverance that will carry you farther than any grand promise ever could. An awakened morning does not only affect the first few hours of the day, it quietly spreads into every moment that follows. When you begin the day with presence, the choices that come next naturally become slower and clearer. A single mindful breath in the morning can lead to a less hurried word. A moment of sitting quietly at the start of the day can lead to a less rushed decision later on. This is the ripple effect the original script emphasizes. And in Buddhism, it is understood through the lens of causes, conditions, and karma. Each morning is a seed being planted. When you plant the seed of awareness, it does not sprout immediately. You may not see a clear change on the first day, or even after several weeks. But in the teachings of the Buddha, no action is ever lost. Everything you do with mindfulness leaves a trace in the flow of the mind. One peaceful morning can lead to a day with fewer reactions. Many such days, repeated over time, gradually shape a lighter way of living. When you wake up early with awareness, you are not only changing how the day begins, but also how you meet what comes afterward. You may notice that you listen to others more carefully. You may find yourself less irritated when things do not go as expected. These changes are often very small, so small that you might overlook them. Yet it is precisely these small shifts that accumulate into meaningful difference. In Buddhism, karma is not formed by rare dramatic actions, but by the habits repeated day after day. A moment of awareness in the morning can also ripple into how you use your time. You may eat more slowly, walk more slowly, and work with greater focus. When the mind is not pulled too quickly, the body is allowed to rest even within its movement. Your day no longer becomes a chain of reactions, but a conscious flow. This does not make life perfect, but it makes it less heavy. This ripple effect does not stop within you. When you enter the day with a calm mind, that energy naturally touches those around you. A gentle word in the morning can soften an entire conversation. A listening presence can ease tension within a relationship. You do not need to try to spread anything. Simply living in alignment with your state of awareness allows calm to be felt. In the original script, the ripple effect is described as a chain of successes. When viewed through the Buddhist spirit, it is understood as the accumulation of wholesome karma. Each morning you choose awareness. Instead of drifting along old habits, you plant a wholesome seed. That seed may not sprout right away, but it is resting in the soil, nourished by steady repetition. Gradually, you may notice that you react less, understand more, and forgive more easily. What matters most is not to rush the results. If you wake up early with the expectation of changing quickly, you create another form of tension. In Buddhism, transformation happens slowly, like water soaking into the earth. You do not see the water moving, yet the soil becomes softer over time. An awakened morning works in the same way. It does not turn you into someone else overnight, but it gently wears away the rough edges of unawareness. After some time, you may realize that the most precious gift of an awakened morning is not efficiency or achievement, but a lighter feeling in the mind. You no longer carry so much heaviness into the day. You know how to pause when needed, and you do not blame yourself when you fall short. A peaceful day does not come from everything going smoothly, but from knowing how to stay with what is happening. From one peaceful morning, a peaceful day unfolds. From many peaceful days, life gradually becomes lighter. This is not a promise, but a very natural law. When a seed is planted correctly and cared for with patience, results arrive in their own time. A single moment of awareness in the morning may not change the world, but it can change how you walk through the world. And it is this quiet change, repeated each day, that leads to a life of greater harmony and steadiness. Not through strained effort, but through sustained awareness. We have walked together through an awakened morning, not to become better or more accomplished, but to feel lighter in the mind. What has been shared is not a promise of changing your life, but an invitation to return to something very close. If you wish, try it for 7 days. Not to succeed, not to prove anything, but simply to observe. Observe the body as it wakes up. Observe the mind as it seeks comfort. Observe how a day begins differently when you are present a little earlier. You do not need to force yourself to wake up very early, and you do not need to do everything perfectly. You only need to keep one small morning ritual. One breath, 1 minute of sitting quietly, 1 moment of remembering that you are alive. If there is a day you forget, smile and begin again the next day. Tomorrow, when the alarm rings, you do not need to become anyone else. You do not need to be stronger, more skilled, or more peaceful. You only need to wake up and be aware of the breath.